Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Magnus.
It's a couple of months. German, as a friend of Rwanda, has been involved in a fascinating project. Give us an overview of why Germany is interested in this project and the motive behind it.
Yes, indeed. You're right. The last year, year 2021, has been a very successful year in our cooperation. Often this gets forgotten because it's just figures you have and you don't see what's behind the figures. But nevertheless, I do start with figures. We were able to more than double our partnership, the amount of our partnership, from about 80 million in a year. We had another extra 100 million euros for 1 year. So this was really, really extraordinary, and I would call it a success. The biggest part of this additional funds we had been able to make available goes into fighting the pandemic. And saying that, we had a specific focus on the economic effects of the pandemic. So we're trying to help small, medium-sized enterprises to overcome the pandemic. So that was the very, very focus of what we've been doing. A second focus is partnership in climate change, preventing climate change or managing climate change and environment policy. So these are the two main pillars of our additional cooperation we've been able to realize last year.
You have a specific project of interest that is not only unique but a little bit more sophisticated in terms of COVID, the Sniffing Dogs.
Yes.
Of the Harvard University. How this came about and why you were involved in this project?
I think you cannot start speaking about our partnership in combating the effects of the pandemic without starting with a recommendation of what Rwanda has been doing. And it's really amazing how the Rwandan government has been managing the pandemic. This is an example worldwide, and it has been recognized worldwide. Rwanda can be very proud of that. I do take some pride in the fact that we have been partners in this development from the very beginning. And the project you've been mentioning is, compared to what I've been describing as our overall partnership, is a tiny project. A tiny project, but a very, very visible one, and one which stands as an example for what we've been doing. It's the Sniffing Dogs you've been mentioned. It was a project that started in Europe, in Germany, I think in one or two other countries as well. Scientists at the university discovered that sniffing dogs were able to detect COVID infections in humans. So they started doing some research on that, and it turned out, yes, it's a very, very successful means, these sniffing dogs, and it immediately made it to the media because it's a sexy project. Media people are interested. That's why you are asking me about
Absolutely.
it.
Yes.
So there was reporting in German media, which made it to international media. And colleagues here, especially at RBC, saw this reporting. They contacted us. Is it possible that we share our experience, that we share the expertise, that we might eventually get some of these dogs here? So this was the starting point. And now we're nearly there. We brought dogs. We brought a trainer, a specialist to the country, who for a couple of weeks did training here. We now have 4 trained sniffing dogs, and we're just about to bring 7 more. So this is and once they're here, I think it's a time where really this project may come into operation. Interesting.
So you have foreign missions all over the world?
More than 200.
And this is the only country where you're having an engagement on this particular project?
Yes, yes.
That is a unique selection of a country?
Yes.
Why?
As I said, the initiative came the other way around. The interest came from the Rwandan side, because they've been reading, specialists at RBC saw that we are doing this kind of research with some success, and so they approached us. And we were very, very happy, and still are, that we were able to come together at this point, and that we're just a small step away from this project coming into reality. Mainly at the airport, but maybe at other big events like sports events as well.
What are the value additions towards this project on the side of Germany?
I think It's somehow unique, it's not only something which finds a lot of interest in the media, but even people in the German government, they're very much interested, they're happy about that, because it's so, as I said, it's so sexy a project, something you can see. There's a difference if you just have test kits or whatever you have, or injections for vaccines. This is something you can see the dogs, you can see the dogs acting, you can see the results, and I think this does make the difference. And in the end, what is for both of us, for Rwanda, but for Germany as well, is the recognition from the general public, from specialists, that we have been doing something and that Rwanda is again in the forefront with new results, scientific results, bringing them into practice.
You said all the details about the arrangement and the partnership on the sniffing dogs and why. But on a flip side of things, scientific and long term, what other arrangements do you have and what's the plan after this? Unless if we are lucky to have the pandemic disappear maybe next year, what happens next?
No, especially in various aspects, this partnership, the project is unique. It's not only that research on this has only started in Europe as well, So while we now, Rwanda and Germany are doing this research together, we are together in the forefront of science in that respect. Something I have not mentioned so far is two aspects. In this project will be for the first time that we will use, or that we have brought, so-called green dogs. Green dogs means dogs which have not been trained before.
Not green in color.
No, not green in color. It means they have not been trained before, so they started being trained all together on this project for the first time. This is an important aspect, a new aspect in the context of this research. The second is that we have developed a machine to train them, and we have brought this machine together with the dogs here. It has been established at the airport in a container where these dogs have been trained. So these two aspects are really new ones, and we're doing this. Rwandan and German trainers and scientists are doing this research together. And another aspect is, and you mentioned, or you have been referring to this, once this pandemic is over, we are very optimistic that these dogs, that the technique may be used again for other diseases, to detect other infectious diseases in the future. So we are very optimistic that, for example, at the entrances of big stadium, when people come to a sports event, this might be very, very useful. Now, in times of the COVID pandemic, but maybe later on we will have other pandemics, other diseases, so they may be used for that one as well.
So on the side of Rwanda, are there particular limitations to how to exploit the resource and the knowledge and the skill?
No, there are no. We will bring these first. We have now, as I said, 4 dogs. We will bring another 7. So this may be just regarded as a starting point. I know that the country has already been using dogs in other contexts, for example, detect drugs or whatever. So this project might be very well expanded with more dogs by Rwanda, just depending on the needs.
Finally, give us a little bit more broad idea of how easy or difficult or in between there in terms of your engagement with Rwanda. What happens? What has been happening? Since the last time we talked about your assignment here,
yes.
What has been your observations?
Well, we have still seen certain restrictions with regard to the pandemic, so we have still had less visitors than we used to have. For the last couple of months, this has slowly been changing, so we have already had a couple of visitors. We have had business people especially, but there's one new game changer, and you have heard about it. This has been in the press. There's the project by the big German biotech company BioNTech, company which has been producing together with Pfizer in the US the vaccine, the most successful vaccine so far against COVID. So they have to plan to invest here to bring vaccine production to Rwanda. The first for the COVID vaccine, but with a longer view to develop here and to produce a vaccine against malaria, among others. So I think this is, in our bilateral relations, the biggest new development we have been seeing in the last couple of months.
Is that only in Rwanda, or like
they plan to have similar production lines in a few, 2 or 3 other African countries as well.
What did you learn from the process of engagement of such a magnitude, such a big project, such a unique business project or investment with an African country? To that extent, what did you learn throughout the process, from the beginning of discussions up to when pens were put on paper?
What I've seen, the most important thing is the absolute commitment by the Rwandan government to reach this goal, to fight for this goal, to do everything possible to make this a reality. It's not easy. Rwanda hasn't had a pharmaceutical industry so far, so it's not easy. But the commitment is absolutely there, and this is something really recommendable and really amazing. That makes the difference to many other parts of the continent.
So we could conclude that this is one of your major successes while assigned here.
I would not claim it as my success, but in bilateral relations, yes, it is, absolutely, without no doubt. It's not there yet, so it's still a couple of months to go, but I'm very optimistic that it really is going to happen within this year, within the year 2022.
So possibly there's another one in the pipeline, a big one.
Let's see.
Okay. Doctor, Your Excellency, good luck, and thank you for hosting us and accepting to have a conversation with us. And
it's my pleasure.
Always happy to visit again.
You're free to do so all the time.
Good luck.
So see you, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay.